CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. A style sheet is a set of instructions that control the appearance of a web page. Style sheets offer more sophisticated control over typographic style and placement of elements than HTML. With style sheets, you can specify traditional typography attributes, such as font size, line spacing, letter spacing, indents, and margins. You may also declare the color scheme of a page and the page's layout. HTML was never intended to contain tags for the presentation or design, such as color, font, layout of a document. HTML is intended to define the content of a web document, like H1, this is a heading, close H1, P, this is a paragraph, close P. As the web is largely a visual medium for elements of design, the World Wide Web Consortium, or W3C, created CSS. In HTML4, all formatting could be removed from the HTML document and stored in a separate CSS file. All browsers support CSS today. By separating visual design elements, fonts, colors, margins, and so on, from the structural logic of a web page, CSS separates design appearance from the integrity of the data, thus maintaining its usability in multiple environments, such as screen versus print. In addition, defining typographic design and page layout from within a single distinct block of code without having to resort to image maps, font tags, tables, and spacer GIFs allows for faster downloads, easier maintenance, and a global control of design attributes such as multiple pages. The separation of content and presentation improves accessibility, provides greater flexibility and control of presentation, facilitates many pages to share formatting, reduces complexity of markup by excluding formatting and design from the HTML. CSS overrides the browser's default settings for interpreting how tags should be displayed, letting you use any HTML element indicated by an opening and closing tag to apply style attributes defined either locally in an HTML document or externally in a separate style sheet document. Style sheets contain rules. The two main sections of a rule are the selector, which identifies the HTML element to be affected, and the declaration, the style or display instructions to be applied to that element. The declaration is made up of a property and a value, similar to an attribute in an HTML tag. You can list several properties in a single declaration, separated by semicolons. Comments are used to explain your code and may help you when you edit the source code at a later date. Comments are ignored by browsers. One may add comments to CSS by nesting comments within a /* and closing a comment with */. I use comments to separate the various sections of a CSS document. For example, I will place one block of CSS rules below a / layout * comment as a note to myself that all layout rules are in the following lines of my document. Here is an example of a simple CSS document. The first line is a comment stating that this is a CSS document. Next, the body selector is a general set of rules that will be applied to the body tag. I am choosing to have a nearly black background with white text in a sans serif font, and I am using a background image to repeat across the page. Following the body, I begin by styling my primary block elements. I want the headings H1 and H2 to stand out against the rest of the text. So I am using serif font, and as headings they are larger than the copy text that will be nested in paragraph tags. I add padding to the paragraph tags so that this text is not against the borders of a container. And I do the same to any images embedded in the document. To present my content, I use an identifier as a selector and place all my content in a box or container with a specific width and centered onto the page. I will discuss identifiers as selectors in a little while. Since the CSS rules are written into a self-contained CSS document, I will link that document in my HTML page to have the HTML page appear according to these rules. By using the link tag in the header tags, I instruct the browser to present the HTML page according to the rules in the linked CSS file. Here, the linked CSS file is titled rules.css. The rel attribute describes the relationship to the linked document. Since CSS is commonly used to style typography, here are examples of font properties and their values to further familiarize you with CSS. The font family declares the font that should be used if available on a system and the general font type. Font weight may be bold, light, medium. Font size, the size of the text, that must use a specific measurement type for its value. Color for color of text. Line height adjusts the height of the line of the type, similar to leading. Again, a specific measurement type must be declared as part of the value. There are 3 ways to add style sheet information to a web page. Inline style, right in the HTML tag itself. Style sheet declarations specific to a single instance on a page may be inserted using an attribute value pairing within a tag. Embedded style sheets. A more compact method for adding a style sheet is to embed a style block at the top of the HTML document within the header area using the style tag. External style sheets are linked style sheet declarations using a single style sheet in a separate file saved with a .css extension to define multiple pages. This is the most dominant use of style sheets. Inline style is style information that is added to an individual element by using the style attribute within the element's HTML tag. For example, this particular heading will be the color represented by 589000 hexadecimal code. Or for this particular paragraph, I am using a specific font and font family that may vary from other paragraphs on the same HTML page. Although this is a valid application of style information, applying a style attribute to every tag in the file does not yield the time and file size savings that style sheets offer. Embedded style sheet is a more compact method of adding a style sheet by embedding a style block at the top of the HTML document using the style tag within the header area. Here's an example of embedded style sheets. You have your opening HTML tag, followed by the opening head tag, and you would include other tags that go within the head area, such as the title tag. You embed your style sheets within the opening style tag. In this case, there's a style for heading 1 and for paragraph. And then you close your style tag, close your head area, and then you would continue into the body area of the HTML document. You must make sure that the style tag is contained within the head of the document, nested within the opening and closing head tags. External style sheets are used to apply one set of style instructions to a number of pages or to an entire site. It is powerful because you can change the appearance of an entire site by making one change in the external style sheet document. You do so by first writing your style sheet rules in a separate document and saving the document with the CSS extension. This document contains only the rules for your style sheet, no HTML structural tags. Next, create a link to the style sheet document from within each web page that you want to apply the style sheet to. You do so by using the link tag. The rel attribute defines the link document's relation to the current document, a style sheet. The href, or hyperreference attribute, provides the URL to the style sheet document. Inheritance refers to the hierarchy amongst the three ways of adding CSS. In cases where inline, embedded, and external style definitions conflict, the most specific style sheet will take precedence, meaning that the styles that are closest to the element they are affecting override other styles that may be applied to the same element. Inline overrides embedded, embedded overrides external. In addition to setting a style for an HTML element, CSS allows you to specify your own selectors called ID and class. The ID selector is used to specify a style for a single unique element in a page. The ID selector uses the ID attribute of the HTML element and is defined with the # in CSS. The style rule below will be applied to the element with ID nav, a term commonly used for navigation. It is important to not begin an ID name with a number, as it will not work in Mozilla. The class selector is used to specify a style for a group of elements. Unlike the ID selector, the class selector is most often used on several elements. This allows you to set a particular style for many HTML elements with the same class. The class selector uses the HTML class attribute and is defined with a period in CSS. In this example, I'm defining a class named quote and applying a font style. The class, ID, and style attributes can be applied within the span and div elements. Used with class or ID, the span and div tags work like customized HTML tags, letting you define logical containers and applying a style to their appearance. Div stands for division or block of data to be partitioned as its own element. Span is used in line. Length units indicates a number followed by a unit of measure such as 24 px, in which px stands for pixels. The number may be an integer or a decimal. Units can be either absolute or relative. Absolute measurements include millimeters, centimeters, inches, points, picas. Relative measurements include the element's font height, em, the element's x height, ex, or pixels. Font size may also be defined as a percentage. With percentage units, the number is followed by the %. In the text indent, margin, padding, and width properties, percentage values are relative to the width of the parent element. For layout, CSS allows you to explicitly determine the position of HTML elements, providing powerful layout control for HTML-based content. There are two basic methods of positioning HTML elements using the position property. Absolute position lets you set an element's position arbitrarily, that is, independently of the document's flow. Relative positioning allows an element to be offset relative to its natural position in the document's flow. Position is specified with the top and/or left properties using a length value, relative or absolute as appropriate, and relatively with the float property. Float left to align an element left, float right to align an element right, clear both to move an element or container below left, right positioned elements or containers.